Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Jmore Live. I'm super excited to introduce Wendy Bronfein, the co-founder and the Chief Brand Officer and Director of Public Policy of Curio Wellness. Wendy, welcome to our show today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, we are going to have a wonderful conversation because I think you have a fascinating company that I am 100% confident our viewers around Baltimore and around the country are going to want to learn more about. So, I knew next to nothing about medical cannabis. And as we chatted in the weeks prior to the show, you were super kind and invited me to tour your facilities, which were just incredibly and are incredibly impressive. But talk to me a little bit about, let's educate our audience. Talk about kind of the scientific approach that Curio Wellness takes to medical cannabis. If you could elaborate a little bit.
Sure. So just a bit of a backup. Curio Wellness is a medical cannabis licensee in the state of Maryland.
Great.
There are 3 different types of licenses that you can have: cultivation, processing, or if you want to call it manufacturing, and then the retail license, which people think of as the dispensary. We have all 3 of those licenses, but Maryland is designed as a wholesale market. So the cultivation and the processed products that we make are sold to over 90% of the dispensaries in the state, including our own. So with that sort of lens over it, I would tell you that our business was designed from the medical and scientific approach. At our core, we started with a scientific advisory board that helps advise on our product formulation and innovation. The company itself was co-founded between myself and my father. He has a 30-plus year career in the healthcare space, specifically inside of pharmacies, so on both an institutional and a retail level, and was very familiar with this sort of drug distribution process in a regulatory environment. And I came from television, but was very familiar with the marketing and branding world. And so the idea and how we ended up here was my desire to marry the two and create the company. I was familiar with the product from my life prior to this. I think it's important to like the product that you make and you sell, and I did, and I do. But I think we were really interested in providing this solution to Maryland patients and being able to do it in a consistent and repeatable way. And that's where, when we did our due diligence, we saw that there was a lack in other markets, because when somebody's buying medicine, you need to be able to get it, right? If you walked into Walgreens and they were out of Pepto and you asked for it and they said, well, I don't know when I'm getting more, like that would not be acceptable.
I'd be upset, especially as a user of Pepto. I'd be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Right. So in the dispensary world, in the early years of the programs, it was very common for the retailer to not have a clear line of sight to their inventory, and for their patients to then like find something that worked and then not be able to repeat that process. So we knew that we needed to build a scientifically focused company that was scalable enough to consistently deliver that medicine to patients week over week. And so where we sit today is with a portfolio of scientifically developed products where our active ingredient is cannabis. And our facility itself is the only in Maryland that is CGMP certified.
What does that mean, CGMP?
So CGMP means current good manufacturing practices, and it's a third-party audit and certification that manufacturing facilities receive, and it's held by basically all businesses that are regulated by the FDA. Of course, that's not what we are today because of our Schedule 1 status, but it's where we believe our industry will go. So think about like a dietary supplement that you buy, right? That's likely made in a CGMP facility, and it assures a certain level of quality and consistency, quality control, transparency of the supply chain. So all those things just kind of raise that standard for ourselves and how we operate to produce and distribute products, as well as raising the standard for what a patient should expect from a product.
Fascinating. So help educate me and our viewers. How does someone purchase the products? I understand that they first have to register with the state before they can come to Curio. What is that? How does that happen?
Yeah, so it's a fairly simple system, and I would just sort of do the PSA of we outline the process on our website and link
Okay.
over to the state's registry. And as well, we do have our own retail store. And if any, it's on York Road. If anyone
Great.
wanted to come there or call there, the staff will personally help you kind of go
Good.
through the process. But essentially, there's sort of a couple high level steps. One is the state has a portal called One Stop. And that's where you start the process. And essentially you register an account. And it's really just about your name, your contact information, a copy of your driver's license, and you submit a passport style photo.
Okay.
And then that information allows them to attach a patient ID number to you. And that's what you need to go to a certifying provider to get that certification. So once you receive your email from the state with your patient ID number, you contact any number of certifying providers. And on the state's website, mmcc.maryland.gov, they have a list of all the providers. So you can find the one that's nearest and most convenient to you. And you should know that prior to and in the wake of COVID, that can be done via telehealth. It doesn't have to be going in person. And you have that consultation with the provider, and then they certify you in that appointment. So as soon as that appointment is over, you have been activated in the system and you can go to a dispensary and purchase a product.
Got it. So let's say I'm a middle-aged Jewish male. I am. And I'm like, I have some issues. Maybe I have trouble sleeping. I have some aches. I'm not exercising enough. I thought this would be interesting, but I'm still skeptical. But do I start the conversation with my doctor? Do I go to your website and learn more? How obviously you've seen all generations come into Curio, but let's say you're just skeptical and you need some more insight. How do you get that?
So
Thoughts?
I think it depends on the person, right? So some people are really comfortable with doing the research on their own, and then they want to come prepared with information to the dispensary and perhaps be further educated there, but they just want to kind of get a baseline.
Okay.
And I do pride ourselves from a product's perspective that our website is very robust. I will tell you that when I work with our web developers, I constantly refer to Sephora. If you click on a product on Sephora, you can know everything about it. And then how to get it, right? So here on our website, we try and give you as much nuance to understanding what that product is and why it might be useful for you. And then we have a where to buy feature because dispensaries are located all over the state. And I'm not sure where you are in the state, so you can identify the closest location. Other people may just want to go in and talk to someone at the dispensary. If you're super new, I think it's useful to perhaps call ahead. A lot of the dispensaries, including ours, will do free consultations or just consultations. So you can actually kind of book some time with someone in a more private setting to get a little bit of background. The other thing is there's just general education. We have in our wellness center, we have a classroom, and we offer classes there. We have consistently offered what we call Medical Cannabis 101 since we opened. Now with COVID, we took everything online, so you can sign up for those classes through Eventbrite. But that is your primer, right? That's where you're going to understand the endocannabinoid system, which exists in the human body, what cannabinoids and terpenes are, which are the therapeutic constituents of the plant, what the different dosage forms that you could purchase in the dispensary, how that dosage form might align with your condition or your duration of relief that you need, where the potencies of products can exist on a spectrum, how you could deliver it to yourself. Are you inhaling it? Are you chewing it? Are you swallowing it? Is it a topical you're rubbing on? But there's a myriad of options. And I think there's a lot of people who are very well trained inside the dispensary who can help you understand what's the right product for you. The general rule with new people is start low, go slow, right? You likely don't have a lot of tolerance to the psychoactivity that could be in the plant. And so you just want to find that useful dose. There's no reason to sort of go over and above. For most people, this is addressing a lot of quality of life issues. I don't think we purport to cure anything, but I think it's very evident that the quality of life for people is improved. And sometimes the products that come from this plant can provide therapeutic solution without side effect, which is why they like it. Because on the Western medicine side, they might be prescribed something that could be useful for whatever symptoms or condition they're dealing with, but
Mhm.
there's this unwanted side effects. And if you'll let me, I'll just give you one
Yeah,
example.
absolutely. Please.
Um, since with our scientific advisory board, from the beginning, we've been working on some targeted formulations, because when I reference that Pepto, what we want to
Mhm.
do is normalize it. Right now, when you walk into a dispensary, there's a lot of generics, as I would refer to it, right? Something
Mhm.
is 5 milligrams, it's 10 milligrams. You chew it, you swallow it, you inhale it, right? But when you walk into Walgreens, you know if you're buying for a stomach ache or a cold or a fever, right? So
Yep.
how can we kind of give people a bit of a more narrow path and give the staff at a store a more focused lane to try and place products with people without veering into spaces of claiming that anything could really do anything, because obviously we're not FDA trialed or anything like that. So we spent the better part of 2.5 years developing a product that we wanted to create to address issues related to sleep. That's a big problem for patients, but it's also
Hmm.
an overarching issue. So anything you have going on, if you can sleep and you can actually restore, then all those issues can be better. So a member of our scientific advisory board, the chairman actually, Ed Rudnick, is an expert in pulse technology in pharmaceuticals. So we developed a pill that uses a pulse technology to deliver two cannabinoids, THC and CBN, to the system and help you fall and stay asleep. So the reason that it's the fall and
Wow.
stay asleep is because that pulse allows a part of the dose to be released immediately. So you would take it 30 minutes before you're going to go to bed,
Mhm.
it would release, and then another pulse comes 3 hours later. And so what we did was we contracted an independent research organization, and we had a physician as our independent investigator, and we used a series of Maryland patients in a trial that was independent to us with an objective tool to measure their sleep, and found that the product worked. And so
Love
that
it.
we commercialized it, because we knew if we were going to categorize something, it was safe in that space because it was meant for that lane, and it did what we were looking for it to do to people. And the other thing we learned from patients is, in the prescription drug side of things, there's a lot of next day hangover. And so when
Hmm.
people use the right volume of dose of this product, they didn't have the hangover. They had the sleep versus being like kind of knocked unconscious, and
Mhm.
they didn't have the hangover. And so that sort of ability of your body and your brain to be kind of like your cell phone that you plug in and the battery restores overnight is really useful.
I like that. Excellent. I might have to look into that. I had a sleepless night earlier this
Oh,
week,
there you
thinking
go.
about way
I
too
am
much.
not sure if I said this, but it's called Good Night.
Good. I like good night. Excellent, as opposed to stay awake, right? Good
Yeah.
night's a much better name. So look, you're passionate about this. I can tell. The tour was incredibly impressive. Give the viewers a sense of what it's been like to build Curio Wellness from the ground up. And look, you obviously have an interesting father-daughter dynamic, right? You're the co-founders. Talk about that too.
So, I mean, it's been so many things. It's been thrilling, it's been rewarding, it's been highly educational. At times, it's been, like drinking from a fire hose, as my
I'll bet.
father would say.
Stressful a little bit.
What'd you say?
Stressful at times.
Stressful at times,
Yeah.
yes, for sure, but good stress,
Yeah.
because you're building something. And
Mhm.
with regards to, there's sort of two elements that mitigate the stress and make it rewarding very quickly. So
Okay.
one is, we were in the time of applying and waiting for the program to come and building our business plan and all that. There was a few of us who had like a nights and weekends project. And
Okay.
from that group, there are three of us who are still here today: myself, my father, and my colleague, Brad Friedlander.
Okay.
So, to have kind of three people who are still here, who are now part of a team of over 200, is just really exciting to have created that many jobs. We are a living wage
Absolutely.
employer. We have a very competitive benefits package. And we seek to build a culture that's a great place to work. Our head of HR came from the 76ers. So
Cool.
it's a really great team and a great place. And so I think building that has been super awesome. The
Yeah.
other is the patient side. So, we get these stories and comments, and we hear how something just works for someone. And I don't know that there's another space where you get that connection so quickly,
Hmm.
because the patient is so passionate, and in some cases so desperate for a solution, that
Mhm.
like they're going to let you know when like they found something that works. And so there's just really amazing and things we've heard and we consistently hear that has made it a really fantastic opportunity. And then from the family side, like it has been pretty cool. It was my dad and I to start. My sister has since joined. I like
Very
to
nice.
tease that this whole business is just a ruse so that I can get her to move home because she lives in the state. But it's super exciting, and it's really great to do this together. I'm sure my mom and maybe my brother are annoyed sometimes when it's kind of all we talk about, but we're having a good time, and I think we have a really wonderful balance of working together professionally and still being a great close family. And I think our colleagues can see that that's the kind of family we are, and that, we're respected for who we are professionally, not necessarily because we're all related to each other.
I like that. Well said. So, talk about this big expansion that you're getting ready for. Clearly, when I came up to your primary facility, there was another big thing being built close by. What does that mean for your employees? What does that mean for the Maryland cannabis industry, for the Baltimore economy? Talk a little bit about your expansion, if you could.
Yeah. So based on our success to date, and sort of looking at the current and the forecasted demand for the medical market here in Maryland, we knew we needed to expand. We had actually about a year ago looked to expand separate from where we are in Baltimore County, bringing several hundred, or I should say about 100 or so jobs to Kent County.
Right.
Unfortunately, we were told we had to stay exactly where we were. So
pause there. So who says that? The state that regulates you, the state of Maryland's commission?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
So instead we put we're building 100,000 square foot addition on our existing building. And that building is where, just to kind of give you a sense of how things have changed over the years. So that building is 55,000 square feet. And when we started, it was 45,000 square feet of cultivation and about 8,000 square feet of manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the remaining space was our offices and other sort of like administrative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about a year and a half ago, the offices we left and we moved to temporary offices so that our manufacturing department could kind of bust through the wall because they backed up to where our offices were. Mm-hmm. and take on more space. And we quickly learned that was useful, but for about a second. So our manufacturing team in just a couple of weeks are going to move to 34,000 square foot. So like 4X of where they are today, just down the road from our other facility. And I think that represents a really meaningful growth point. I think a lot of times in this industry, it's all about the flower and the plants, and they're very important because one, some people use flower like exclusively, and that's their mode of medicine. And the other is you need the flower to extract the oil to make the products. But there is such a diverse pool of manufactured products that are out there. And this is a very robust and skilled team. And so for them to have this new state-of-the-art facility, another CGMP facility, making these products, I just think shows their commitment to what we're doing. So you basically have 100,000 square feet going on cultivation. You have manufacturing moving to their own building that's going to be 4 times the space they have now. And then additionally, from the dispensary side of things, we refer to our dispensary as a wellness center because we offer more than a dispensary there. So there is a dispensary, and if you're a medical cannabis patient, we would love to see you. That area is obviously restricted to medical cannabis patients. But in addition to it, we have what we refer to as a holistic pharmacy. So we sell professional grade vitamins and supplements, natural health and beauty products, hemp-based CBD. And then we also have a spa there that has 4 top practitioners from the area, 2 estheticians, one of the best acupuncturists in Baltimore, and a fantastic masseuse.
Sign me up. I'm coming.
Sorry to shamelessly plug them, but they are great. So, that all is open to the public to be this sort of hub of wellness. And then if the dispensary is for you, it's there as well. We are franchising that model. So that's the third leg in our expansion stool. And that will be here in Maryland, as well as across several states around the country.
I'm curious, where did the name Curio come from? What's the there?
Okay, so this is a really nerdy marketing answer, but our marketing agency is Planet. They're based out of Baltimore City.
Yep.
And when we started doing name development, we were given a lot of buckets of names that they had given us. But I had specifically asked for one of the buckets to be names that didn't mean anything. So think about like Kleenex, Starbucks, Google, right? Those own a category, but they're just, the name has defined it. The name has defined the category. And I sort of wanted that lofty aspiration on our shoulders. Additionally, I felt it was important that it was a hard consonant. I mean, this is where it's getting pretty nerdy. But,
are you a marketer? You must be a marketer.
Yeah. And so when we went through the exercise early on with this group that was my family, Brad, and a couple other people, we said, they sent us this whole list. And I said, okay, everybody pick your top 5 and email it to me by this date, because we had to go back and if we were going to go through other rounds. And essentially Curio appeared on everyone's list. And I was like, not pushing this forward. Everyone said Curio, we're done.
There you go. It's a great name. Love it. Excellent. Excellent. So, you know, I was really impressed as I was reading the website a few weeks ago to see that you've launched this $30 million fund to help women and minorities own a cannabis dispensary. Why'd you do that?
So diversity and social equity is a huge issue in our industry. And there are lots of solutions that have been proposed, and they range from on the state level, how licenses are attributed to people and opportunities are created, to kind of workshops that are offered, or incubators and maybe some sort of infusion of capital. But what we saw was the biggest hurdle to this is the access to capital. So what many people probably don't understand is if you're in a cannabis business, you can't walk into a bank and say, I'd like to get a small business loan to start a cannabis company, right? So you essentially need to have go to family and friends. You need to be independently wealthy. You need to know people to invest in your company. And so for groups that are typically categorized from like a small business situation under a WMBE designation, that access to capital is usually part of the problem as well. So we thought, well, the best way to solve this problem would be to create a private equity fund that invests directly in prospective entrepreneurs in this industry, and was designed in a way that the loan terms were very favorable, as well as the buyout was favorable, so that the entrepreneur is moved into the place of 100% ownership very quickly. And in our case, it's as little as 3 years and as many as 7. So you can't just stay forever. And then you truly have a generational wealth creator, because that's really the buzzword in this space, is how do people create generational wealth. And so when you take that fund concept and you answer the call for capital that's needed, and you pair it with the idea to franchise, which is what we've done, you've really increased the chance of success, because that franchise is saying, you know what, we spent the last 4 years figuring all of this out. We built a great brand. We know how to work in a regulatory environment. We understand the patients. We understand the promotion, the inventory controls, all of these things. And so we can give you this toolkit to increase your chances of success. And if you fall into one of these groups, we can also help you fund the activation of your store.
Love it. It almost sounds like a very Jewish thing to do, to help others. So let's go there for our last question. Look, you're super involved in the Baltimore Jewish community. Talk a little bit about kind of what that's done to shape you as a business leader, as someone who hires people, someone who has to instill values and mission in a team. Talk about your Jewish community involvement a little bit.
So I think, and I'm too bold in saying this, but I do think that, I think it's fair to say that philanthropy is intrinsically like a Jewish value, right? We learn about
absolutely,
right? So that was established long ago. Today I sit on the board of the Associated. When I lived in New York, I was involved with UJA Federation there. I participated in a national leadership program called Cabinet for 6 years. That's all really rooted back here in Baltimore. So my parents have always been very active. I'm an Associated in several other philanthropies. My grandmother worked at the Associated. So it just feels natural. It doesn't feel like an obligation. It just feels like a natural fit. And I think that giving back is the right thing to do. As a company, we do that as well. Because we believe that, part of being a good steward of this license is also giving back to the community.
Yep.
And then with respect to kind of agencies of the associated, I also sit on the board of Pearlstone, where I will shamelessly plug the new amphitheater space that I am the co-chair of putting together, and will be hopefully
Cool.
alive and kicking in 2022. So, if I have my wish, then like it's going to be, Merriweather North, but
I love it.
it
That's
might be too
great.
cold. It might just be like a Rosh Hashanah service out loud. outside.
That works too. That's okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So no,
funny.
I mean, and look, the community has given me so much, and I think it's important to give back and invest in it. And like, we all know that this environment, this Jewish environment in Baltimore is it's like nothing else. I mean, I lived in New York, and yes, New York has Jews, but it is not the kind of crazy ancestral nature that Baltimore has. And you can't take that for granted. So we have to, invest in it and continue to harvest its potential.
Yep, have to be great stewards of it. Super. Well, so on that note, because we will not have another Jmore Live before the new Jewish New Year, so let me be one of the first to wish you a Shana Tova, a happy and healthy New Year. I want to let our viewers know before we thank Wendy and send her off to do all the great things she's doing, that for our September show, we're going to be joined by Dave Spector, a nationally acclaimed Chicago-based blues musician and producer who has produced multiple albums for Delmark Records. That should be a lot of fun. And hopefully our viewers are getting a sense between Wendy today with Curio Wellness and Cannabis, with the new rabbi from Har Sinai Oheb Shalom, and Dave Spector. Every few weeks, we're going to talk to different local and national Jewish personalities. And Wendy, thank you for your time. It was just a pleasure getting to know you. And, we look forward to more conversation with Jmore in the coming months and years. And I wish you, your father, and your entire team much success.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Be well, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.